Morning children, stay safe and healthy, stay at home. Now we have done already the Gauss's theorem and the proof of Gauss's theorem. Now in the Gauss's theorem we have seen that whenever you are applying, whenever we are using the Gauss's theorem while proving it, we have assumed one closed surface surrounding the distribution of charge. That surface is known as the Gaussian surface. So today first topic is the Gaussian surface and its property. So what is, and it is important topic for your board exam as a 2-mark question. So you must mark it, learn it. So what is the Gaussian surface? Gaussian surface is the closed surface we assume surrounding the distribution of charge. Then next is, what are the properties of Gaussian surface? The first most important property of the Gaussian surface is that it should be a closed surface. Alright, you cannot assume a surface which is not closed as a Gaussian surface. So the first property is that Gaussian surface should be a closed surface. Why? Because in the Gauss's theorem, in the statement it is written that the electric flux passing through the closed surface is equal to 1 upon epsilon 0 times the net charge enclosed by the surface. So the first property is that it should be a closed surface. I have written one here. I am not writing verbally, I am saying, but you must note it down in the copy. So Gaussian surface should be a closed surface. Second point, Gaussian surface you should assume in such a way that it should pass through the point of observation or the point where you want to find out the electric field intensity. Alright, so what is the second property? That Gaussian surface should pass through the point of observation. Then the third property, although it is third, but it is the most important one, that while choosing the Gaussian surface, you should take care the surface should be such that it should be symmetric about the distribution of charge. Just you consider this one. Suppose there is a line charge distribution. Alright. So you should choose the Gaussian surface in such a manner that it should be symmetric about the distribution of charge. What does it mean? Suppose I am assuming a cylindrical surface as the Gaussian surface. Then you see, and I am choosing the cylinder in such a manner that the line distribution is along the axis of the cylinder. Then you see all the points, they are equidistant. If you consider this point here, if you consider this point here, they are symmetric about the distribution of charge. So what is the third point regarding the this one Gaussian surface? That it should be symmetric about the distribution of charge. Then the fourth point is, if there is a discrete distribution of charge. Discrete means what? Already I discussed in the earlier lessons. The charges, there are gaps between the charges. Then they are known as discrete distribution of charge. So whenever there is a discrete distribution of charge, in that case, while choosing the Gaussian surface, you have to take care the surface should not pass through any charge. Alright, so these are the 4 properties of the Gaussian surface. Sometimes you may get the question this way, what are the characteristics of Gaussian surface? So these are also considered as the characteristics of the Gaussian surface. So the main 2 things is that closed surface and symmetric about the distribution of charge. Now we can deduct Coulomb's law from Gauss's theorem. Alright, what is Coulomb's law? That if there is a point charge, then at certain distance, if you keep another charge, force experienced it by given by 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q1 q2 by r square. Alright, so we can deduct it by using the Gauss's theorem. So let us consider that we have kept one charge plus q here. Alright, now you have taken a point, suppose it is A, you have taken a point B at a distance r from the point charge q, and you want to find out what is the, and you want to deduct the Coulomb's law. Alright, now let us apply the Gaussian theorem. So if I consider if you want to apply the Gaussian theorem, then the first step of application of the Gaussian theorem is that choose the Gaussian surface properly, applying the characteristics. So here you see how I have chosen the Gaussian surface. I have chosen a sphere, alright, at the center of the sphere the point charge is situated. Alright, now here if you consider a small surface ds, alright, then through the small surface ds, what is the amount of electric flux now through the small surface ds? Alright, if you consider the Gauss's theorem, then you can write down that this is equal to integration d phi e, where d phi e is the electric flux passing through this small surface. Alright, now here you see d phi e, you can write it as E dot ds, where you have considered E be the electric field intensity at this point. So you see, if you consider what is the direction of the electric field intensity is along this direction. Now look at the surface chosen, then what is the direction of the surface area vector ds? It is also along the same line of E. So you see what you can write E dot ds. What does it mean? Between E and ds the angle is 0. So one can write E dot ds as E ds cos 0 degree. Cos 0 degree is 1. So you can take it outside. Cos 0 degree is 1. So it is becoming integration E dot ds. Alright. Now if you consider E as I have already said, Gaussian surface, we consider it symmetric about the distribution of charge. What is the meaning that why we choose that as symmetric? Because if the surface is symmetric, then we are assuming that electric field intensity magnitude is constant over the entire surface. Alright, that is the reason that we assume the Gaussian surface as symmetric. So here you see, as E is the electric field intensity at this point and as it is a Gaussian surface, so it should be same over the entire surface. Alright, it should be independent of the position of the charge here over the surface. So what you can do, you can take E outside the integration. So what it is becoming, it is E integration ds. Now what should be the left hand side? According to Gauss's theorem, the electric flux passing through the surface is 1 upon epsilon 0 times the net charge enclosed. So in this case, what is the net charge enclosed? Q. So you can write it as Q upon epsilon naught. Alright, it is coming according to Gauss's theorem. Now you see, next is what is the magnitude of integration ds? Integration ds means the entire surface area. Now I have chosen it as a sphere, and here just look at the diagram. R is the radius of the Gaussian surface, Gaussian spherical surface chosen. So what will be the entire area? It will be 4 pi r square. So you can write it, integration ds is nothing but 4 pi r square. So if you simplify it, what are you getting? E is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by R square. Just see, this is the electric field intensity here. So if you keep another charge, suppose Q1 here, what will be the force? Q1 into E means 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 by R square, which is nothing but the Coulomb's law. So this is the way you can derive Coulomb's law by applying Gauss. Next is application of Gauss's theorem. Now we will find out what is the electric field intensity at a point due to an infinitely long charge distribution. Alright. Now, due to infinitely long charge distribution, here remember why it is infinitely long. Why we have not taken a line charge of definite length? Because when you take a line charge of definite length, then the direction of the electric field intensity will not be along the horizontal line or along the line perpendicular to the distribution. Alright. But if you take it is infinitely long, then direction is specified. What will be the direction? If you draw a perpendicular passing through the point of observation perpendicular to the distribution of charge, that will give you the direction of electric field intensity. That is the reason we have taken infinitely long line charge distribution. Now let us first assume that lambda be the linear charge density for this distribution of charge. Alright, lambda is the linear charge density. Now if I consider plus q be the total amount of charge present on it. Now if you apply the Gauss's theorem, then what you have to do? Already I said that first of all you have to choose a proper Gaussian surface. Proper means which will obey all the characteristics already I have discussed. So according to that, in this particular case, what will be the Gaussian surface chosen? It should be a cylinder, and you choose the cylinder in such a manner that the given distribution of charge should be along the axis of the cylinder. Alright. So here you see I have tried to draw it, but I think it is not coming exactly along the axis of the cylinder. When you will draw the diagram, please take care that you take the help of the ruled line and ruler, and you draw it so that it will be along the axis of the cylinder. Now here you see, if I apply the Gauss's theorem, then what you can write? According to Gauss's theorem, E dot ds is equal to q divided by epsilon naught. Alright, now here what does q represent? Q represent the charge enclosed by the surface. Alright, so here look at the diagram. In this diagram, the small q is not at all equal to the total charge present in the distribution. Alright, because it is not enclosing the entire charge present in the distribution. So, which portion charge we have to consider? You see, from this point to this point, whatever charge are present, that is equal to q. So, how you can get that? If you consider that the length of the Gaussian surface, let it be L. Is that clear? Then you see, lambda is linear charge density. Lambda gives you charge present per unit length. So, how much charge is present in length L? If you apply unitary method, it will become lambda into L. So, you see, Q you can write it as lambda into L. Clear to everyone? I hope so. Now, come to the left hand side. We have to find out integration E dot ds. Means, if I want to apply this, we have to choose a small surface ds. Now look at the cylinder. The cylinder is having three prominent surfaces. The upper circular surface, then second one is the curved surface, and third one is the bottom circular surface. So let us name the surfaces like this. This is first surface, I name it as 1. This one is surface 2, and this one is surface 3. Is that clear? Now, if you choose a small surface ds over the second surface, then you see what will be the direction of E and ds. E is along this direction and ds also along the same direction. Come to the first surface. If you take 1 point, then what is the direction of E? Direction of E is along this direction. What is the direction of ds? ds is in this direction. So you see, for the first surface, E and ds are perpendicular to each other. Come to the third one. For the third one, what is the direction of the electric field intensity? Direction of electric field intensity is in this direction. And what is the direction of surface area ds, it is in this direction. So you see, for the first surface and third surface, E and ds are perpendicular to each other, whereas for the second surface, E and ds are parallel to each other. So here, when you are writing integration E dot ds over the entire Gaussian surface, you can break it for the three surfaces separately. Means you can write it E dot ds over the first surface, then E dot ds over the second surface, and then E dot ds over the third surface. Alright. Now come to the first surface. E dot ds, when E and ds are perpendicular to each other, it is 0. Then for the third surface also, E and ds, they are perpendicular to each other. So what is the value coming? 0. So these two are giving you the value 0. Now come to the second one. For the second surface, E dot ds, as they are parallel, simply you can write it as EDS. And on the right side we have got lambda L by epsilon naught. Now, as already I discussed that E, it is due to the symmetry of the Gaussian surface about the distribution. E you can take outside the surface. So it is becoming integration ds over the second surface is equal to lambda L divided by epsilon naught. So what is the value of integration ds over the second surface? Area of the second surface. So what is the area of the curved surface? If you consider that this distance of the point of observation, let it be r, then what is the area of the curved surface? It is 2 pi rl. Alright, I hope you have not forgotten. Area of a curved surface of a cylinder is 2 pi rl. So you are getting here lambda L by epsilon naught. So you see, E is coming, LL getting cancelled. It is coming lambda divided by 2 pi epsilon naught into R. Alright. So in this case, this expression giving you the magnitude of the electric field intensity. We are getting it by applying the Gauss's theorem. So this expression is very important and interesting also. Alright, how it is interesting? Just try to see. According to Coulomb's law, at any point, what is the electric field intensity? Electric field intensity is inversely proportional to the square of the distance. Means E depends on R square. It is E is equal to something divided by R square. But in this case, when you are getting infinitely long line distribution of charge, then you see E is inversely proportional to R only. So it is a very important and favorite topic, and of all the examiners, and for concept wise also it is very important. This is the case where electric field intensity depends inversely only on the value of R, only on the distance of separation, not on the square of the separation. Alright. So if you consider the direction of the electric field intensity, so look at the diagram, direction of the electric field intensity along the direction of the R, position vector R. So you can write it like this, it is 1 by 2 pi epsilon naught lambda by R, then unit vector R. Remember, don't write, don't do the mistake. Here you must write the unit vector R, because unit vector R, if you write, then only it will represent the direction as well as it will not change the magnitude of the electric field intensity. So this two relation is very important for your board exam. Multiple choice question as well as 1 mark question as well as the derivation may come in the exam. So you must learn the entire topic. Next is electric field intensity due to an infinite plane sheet of charge. So suppose you have taken a plane sheet of charge. Here I am putting 2 arrows. It means it is extended till infinity. Alright. So you have to find out what is the electric field intensity at any point due to this infinitely long plane sheet of charge. Alright. So you see step by step how we are considering the distribution of charge. first I have considered a line charge, alright, infinitely long line charge. Now here you see a plane sheet you may consider as if it is a collection of closely spaced infinitely long line charges, isn't it? How you can get a plane? By considering a collection of closely spaced line, alright. Now in this case also we will apply the Gaussian theorem. So Gauss's theorem, what does it represent? That integration E dot ds is equal to Q upon epsilon naught. Q is the charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface. And so the first step is what? We have to choose a proper Gaussian surface. So in this case we chose the Gaussian surface a cylinder only, but not a cylinder, vertical cylinder, as we have chosen for the previous discussion. We chose a horizontal cylinder as the Gaussian surface. Alright, I hope you are understanding it. That suppose this is the plane sheet of charge, alright, and you are considering, this is the plane sheet of charge, and you are considering the Gaussian surface like this. Alright, so this is the way you are considering the Gaussian surface. It is also a cylinder, but the cylinder is horizontal. Alright, so in this case also you see the cylinder is having three surfaces. So let us name it. This is the first surface, second surface, and this one is the third surface. Alright, so first of all, for all the surfaces you show, as we did it earlier, the direction of the electric field intensity and the direction of the surface vector for that particular surface. So you see for the first surface, what is the direction of the electric field intensity? In this direction. What is the direction of the area vector? ds, in the same direction. So for this one, what is the direction? And this one, okay, I am drawing it little bit later. Let it dry up. So for the second surface, let us find out. This is the direction of the electric field intensity. This is the direction of ds. Alright. Now if you consider the third surface. For the third surface, you see this is the direction of electric field intensity. This is the direction of area vector. Girls, for the way I am drawing the diagram, if the derivation comes, then in the diagram, each and everything, whatever I am writing, you must draw, you must show. Then only the marks allotted for the diagram you will get. Okay, so don't forget to show that what are the direction of E and ds as I am showing here. Okay, fine. Then the next one. So you see how I can write this one. I can break it as we did that integration E dot ds for the first surface, integration E dot ds for the second surface, and integration E dot gs for the third surface. Alright, now come to the right side. Q upon epsilon naught. What does Q represent? The charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface. So if you look at the diagram, Q represents the charge present within this area. Alright, so for a surface distribution of charge, we define one quantity that is known as surface charge density. Alright. Now surface charge density is what? Charge per unit area. So if I consider that this surface area is A, then you see what will be the amount of charge present in it? It will be sigma into A. Is that clear what I said? A is the area of this surface, which is on the Gaussian surface, as well as the part of the plane sheet which is on the Gaussian surface. That is A. So what is the charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface? It will be sigma into A. So it is sigma A by epsilon naught. Now look at the diagram. For the first surface and for the third surface, this is third surface. For the first and third surface, E dot ds is equal to E ds. Alright. And If you look at the diagram, from the symmetry of the diagram, it is clear E dot ds for this surface and E dot ds for this surface will be the same. So you see, for this one, the first and the third one can write it as 2 integration E ds over the first surface, and here it is coming sigma a by epsilon naught. Again, E you can take outside the integration, Y you can take outside the integration because it is symmetrical. So it will become integration ds is equal to sigma a by epsilon naught. Then after that, integration ds, how much it will be? It will be nothing but the area. So what is area here? We have assumed it as A. So you are getting 2EA is equal to sigma a by epsilon naught. So there is no space here. I am going here. Then AA you can cancel. So what is the expression for E, electric field intensity? It is coming sigma by 2 epsilon naught. Alright, this is the magnitude of the electric field intensity due to a plane sheet of charge, infinitely long plane sheet of charge. Now, it is so much interesting. You see, look at the expression. E is equal to sigma by 2 epsilon naught. It is not at all depending on the distance of the point of observation. Alright, so this is another example where electric field intensity does not depend on the point of observation. Means if you take a point near to the sheet of charge, if you take a point away from the sheet of charge, electric field intensity will remain the same. And what is the direction? Direction is along the horizontal line. So you see, it indicates that a plane sheet of charge, it produces a uniform electric field. So this is the expression for the plane sheet of charge. One plane sheet of charge we have taken, and you must learn the derivation and remember the final expression.